Hi, this is George Alger, and welcome to today's segment of Our Ventura TV. Today we're going to be talking about the Museum of Ventura County, and our guest expert today is Elena Brokaw, who is the Interim Director of the museum. Welcome, Elena.
Hi, George. It's great to be here.
How long has the museum been around?
Well, over 100 years.
Okay.
It was actually established in 1913, which is the same year that the Ventura County Courthouse, now Ventura City Hall, was built. The museum has a really interesting history, and since it's a history museum, that's good. So it was established by Dr. Cephas Bard Hospital in Ventura, who had come out to Ventura from the East Coast, and he had many patients, including many Chumash patients who could not pay in cash, and so they gave him artifacts.
Wow.
So at his passing, his brother had a selection of a good number, over 1,000 artifacts, and the museum was first established in order to display those artifacts.
Wow.
Just in one room right in City Hall. It's actually, I think, code enforcement. If you go in the front doors over there, it's in the planning department now. And it was that way for many, many years. The goal of the museum has actually changed a lot over the years. The museum is pretty good at reinventing itself to serve a function in the community that the community needs and wants at that time. So while it started with that selection of artifacts, it has evolved to collect art, to collect 2D objects, to collect lots of paper. It is the definitive repository of our culture and our history of all of Ventura County and the Channel Islands. So it got too big because they were collecting so many items of importance in our county's history, and they had to build a new site in 1970 something. And they built at the current site on Main Street, 100 East Main Street, and we're still in that building now. But since then, I'll just keep on going and then I'll stop. We have actually opened up a few more branches. We have one experimental site out on the Avenue. A lot of people don't know about it.
I didn't.
It's called the Tool Room at Bell Arts Factory.
Right, of course.
Yeah, so that's curated by our curatorial staff.
Right.
And it's a place for more challenging works. It turns over every month. It features a lot of cutting edge and local artists. And then in 2011, the museum opened the Agriculture Museum in Santa Paula, which is in an historic building out there, and was an opportunity to show the agriculture implements and then also educate our community about agriculture, which is such an important part of our history and our economic base.
Indeed. And there's a history division or department at the museum?
Well, there's the library, the historical research library. And it is, as I say, the place. It has over 50,000 documents, photos, and records. So it is the place. If you want to know about your family's background, you just go up there. And there's always staff there, and they live to help people learn more about their county. It's one thing I've discovered in my role as the interim director there at the museum, is that staff and that board and that team of volunteers, they live to help people learn more about where we as a community came from. And it's been really inspiring for me to see how strongly they believe that we need to know more about our past in order to better inform our present.
How could anyone in the public access this information?
Well, you can always come to the museum. The museum is open, the one in Ventura is open Tuesdays through Sundays, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Almost every day of the year, except Mondays. The Agriculture Museum is open Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, and the Research Library is open Monday to Friday. And you can come in, and there's always staff there. You can come in and ask any questions, and we will do our best to help you. And then there's all sorts of ways to get involved in the museum as a member or a docent, or as a supporter.
And what is a docent?
A docent is somebody who is trained, very, very well trained in the museum, so that anybody can walk in and they can pretty much answer any question. And George, it's a tough training. It's a 12-week, so 3-month training every week. I'm not trying to scare off any of your viewers, but it's for people who really love history. The docents are key to all of the educational tours that we give. So we have a few curriculum that we offer. We're always modifying that to match the changing school standards, so Common Core and fit STEM learning, etc. The docents are really key to doing that. So we have a Chumash room in the museum, for example, And the docents have to know everything about that and everything about the history. And then we have the George Stewart figures in the museum. Many people have seen those. They are quarter life size, very lifelike figures, carved, all the clothing handmade by a local artist in Ojai, George Stewart. And that exhibit changes every 2 months. So the docents need to know all about that. They need to know all about the current exhibit that's up there. So anyway, 12-week training, and then they give adult tours, kids tours. They can help out hanging gallery shows. They really become a part of the behind the scenes that helps make that museum come to life.
Good. About how frequently overall do the exhibits change?
You know, we are trying to, we will continue to be trying to create more shorter exhibits in order to provide more opportunity for people to come to the museum. The museum is a small building, but it has big dreams, and it has this huge collection that people want to see. So we are always trying to figure out ways that we can hang more and change things around more often so that we can show more of our collection. So the George Stewart figures change twice a year. We have the main Huntsinger Gallery that changes over 3 times a year. And then we have these smaller gallery spaces. We have a room that we call the Is It Art Room, where we ask questions, different kinds of questions all the time. And that changes every 8 weeks. We have one case before you leave. It's called Just in Case. And it's one final exhibit about an object that maybe can't be out for too long. And so that changes every 2 months. We are looking at creating more what they call pop-up exhibits, so exhibits that will be up for a month. So we're really trying to create a new experience once a month, somewhere in the museum.
Good, let's speak about the Agricultural Museum.
Love to.
So where is it?
It's in Santa Paula.
Right.
It's in the old mill building. Some of your viewers may know about the mill building. I'm a Ventura County resident. I grew up in Ventura and then in Santa Paula. And I used to go to the mill when I was a kid. They had feed and horse supplies, stuff I didn't know the names of, but then they also had little baby kittens and ducks and all sorts of things. I loved going to the mill. And it had closed, its use it was no longer used as it was. So the museum took it and renovated it, and now, as I said, it's the Agriculture Museum. There's a lot of farm implements, there's a lot of tractors, there's a horse you can climb on, there's a tractor that kids can climb on. There are a lot of interactive kids programs there, and in fact I have a young boy and I'm trying to get him to like museums, and the Agriculture Museum is really helping me because he can go in there anytime and there's all sorts of stuff he can play with. There's nobody there saying don't touch that. It's designed for him to be able to play with and then learn without knowing he's learning. So there's a bee exhibit, there's a beehive there in the museum. And a lot of interactive for adults too, questions about our ag industry, and a lot about our history.
Good. So is there a purpose to try to equally represent art and history at the museum?
That is such a great question. So it was started as a history museum.
Right.
And the mission has changed. As I said, it's evolved and reinvented itself at certain times. And in I think it was the 80s, they changed it from the Ventura County Historical Society to the Ventura County Museum of History and Art for a couple of reasons. One was just fairly strategic. They thought art could get more people in the door. And that's one of the revenue streams for the museum. But the other is that art is such an important part of our history. Mm-hmm. So as I said, we have 50,000 items in the library. We have over 30,000 historical objects, and we have just over 1,000 pieces of art because we've been collecting it fairly recently. So we're in the process of developing that part of our collection. But I would say that the way that the museum addresses its arts collection is really as it informs the county's history.
Okay. And since the Shumas artifacts were what established the whole presence of the museum, do you always try to have a Shumash exhibit?
We always do.
Okay.
Yes, we have a standing one, and it's also very important for our education.
Okay.
Our kids' education programs, which we try to serve 14,000 kids from throughout the county each year with on-site tours.
Then do you happen to know if the Museum of the Museum of Ventura County is the, I don't know, the best resource for Chumash education?
Well, there's a Chumash Museum down in Thousand Oaks,
Okay.
which we admire greatly, and we work with them. So I would say that we're pretty complementary. But yes, I think we're fantastic. How's that?
I have no doubt.
Completely objective opinion on my part.
That's fine. So we're just about out of time. Is there a website that viewers can go to for more information? And do you have a summating message for the viewers?
Yes. VenturaMuseum.org is, no spaces or anything, is our website. And the summary message I have is that the museum is really, it has an irreplaceable role in our county. As I said, it is a place we want everybody to come in to learn about their past, be informed about their present, and create a better future. That's what we're trying to do at that museum. And we want everybody to come on in and ask for me, and I'll give you a tour.
Well said. Thank you very much, Elena.
Thank you, George. A pleasure.
This is George Alger signing off for this segment of Our Ventura TV. Until we meet again.